Hello friends, family, and internet strangers, Stephanie here, and welcome back to Vlogmas, or welcome if you're new. Today it's all about dessert. I have two super easy but really tasty desserts. First up is this peppermint mocha dip, which was so addicting. First up, the recipe called for these Starbucks Frappuccino things. I didn't have one at the time though. I was able to find it after the fact, so I could make this again for a pie filling that I'm going to be doing. But for this particular day, I did not have it, so I decided to make my own. I took just a few ounces of cold brew and then added some milk to it, and then a little bit of mocha syrup. I use the skinny syrups. I get them cheap at Home Goods. If you're buying these online but you have a Home Goods or TJ Maxx around you, I recommend checking those because they're normally only about $3.99 at Home Goods or TJ Maxx, but if you buy them online, they are about $8.99 per bottle. So highly recommend those, but definitely get them at that discounted price. So I added a little bit of that to my milk and a little bit of coffee, and then I added it to some chocolate pudding mix, and then I also had one of these peppermint bark skinny syrups. Otherwise you could use some peppermint extract, but I figured this would give it a little bit of added chocolate type flavor as well, because it did have chocolate in that flavoring of the peppermint bark skinny syrup. I am just going to whisk all of that together. I have electric mixers, but it still doesn't normally get it completely smooth for me. Anyone else always have lumps in their pudding, but I really don't care. When I have lumps, I actually like getting that little extra burst of flavor. Let me know in the comments down below if it bothers you if your pudding has little lumps in it. Once I let the pudding sit for about an hour or so, I then add an entire tub of Cool Whip to it, and then I let that sit as well. This was absolutely delicious. Highly recommend. I added a few little red and green M&Ms to the top, and honestly the next day when some of those red and green M&Ms had kind of melted into it, it was even better. But it was really good. I served this with some of the brownie brittle, which I can link that video down below where I made the brownie brittle, as well as some pretzels, some Nilla wafers. This would also be really good for marshmallows or apples or bananas. That dip was absolutely delicious. Next up is a cannoli poke cake. I love cannoli cake, but I have never made it myself. I just buy it other places, and this was so good. I will post the recipe that I used in the description box down below. The only change I made, I added about a half teaspoon of almond extract into the cake batter. So I love the flavor of almond in desserts, specifically almond extract, and I find a little goes a long way, so that half teaspoon was plenty, and that flavor definitely comes through in the cake. But other than that, you're going to make the cake according to the directions on the box. So once I've got my batter, I'm just going to put that into a greased and floured baking dish. Since I will not be eating this all myself, I will most likely be taking at least half of this into work. I decided to use a just tin pan that I can throw away once my coworkers are done devouring it. I have a feeling this one's gonna go quickly once people realize it's there. After I poke all my holes, which I used doing a wooden spatula, and you do that right when it comes out of the oven, you're also going to get your topping on here as soon as it comes out of the oven. For this particular poke cake, it is a sweetened condensed milk. I took half a cup of that out before I poured the rest of the can over it, because that's going to go in the topping for this. But the rest of that goes into the fridge, and you let that soak into the cake for at least 1 hour. I did mine for about 2 hours. For the frosting, you're going to mix together mascarpone cheese, ricotta cheese, and then blend that together with some vanilla. And then once that is nice and smooth, you're gonna add some powdered sugar and a little bit of cinnamon to that mixture, and then the rest of the sweetened condensed milk goes in after that. So that half cup that you reserved before pouring it onto the cake, you're gonna add that in after this point. Now, this topping was one of the few times I did measure cinnamon because I wanted that cinnamon flavor. The recipe says it's optional, but if you're new here, welcome. I love cinnamon. I add it to pretty much everything, and I very rarely measure it, but I didn't want to go too heavy on the cinnamon. I just wanted a hint of it in this frosting. Once all of that condensed milk has soaked into my cake, I'm going to top it with this topping frosting mixture, because it's not really a frosting, it's very much a cannoli filling. It tastes very much like a cannoli, but without that hard shell. Instead, you've got that nice moist cake. On top of this, I'm just gonna pour on a bunch of mini chocolate chips, just like you would put chocolate chips on the ends of your cannoli, and this was delicious. I cannot wait to bring this into work and see what some of my coworkers think of it, but this would be great at a holiday party or after Christmas dinner. My family does Italian food for Christmas. This would complement that really well. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss any more content. More Vlogmas coming up tomorrow. Thanks for watching.